Hey gang, Craig Ripley here. Welcome once again to Living Off the Slab. Now today I'm going to answer some viewer questions. I put a notice out on Facebook as well as in my 2 memberships I have out on my website, and also I put it out here to the folks on YouTube. And I got several questions that people were interested in. I got some, I think, really good ones here that we're going to go over in this video. So the first question, well, it comes from my wife, and she actually already knows the answer to this, so I'm not sure why she's asking, other than just to get a rise out of me and everybody else. And that is, she wants to know if I wear boxers or briefs. Well, I guess my answer is some things are better kept to the imagination. So next, I got a question I thought that was quite interesting, and that is, of all of the items of gear that I have purchased over the years, which it's been a lot of, what is the one that most has disappointed me? And right off the top of my head, the first one that comes to mind is a set of TCX adventure boots that I purchased when I was getting the Super Tenere and we were planning on going to Alaska. Now these were waterproof boots. I really like them as far as their fit goes and how they felt. But I went out on a training ride in April of 2016, probably it was. And of course, being it was April up here in the Northeast, it rained and it got pretty darn cold. And I soon found that that waterproof lining in the boots didn't last very long. My feet got wet, they got extremely cold, and I was on the verge of getting frostbite. At least that's what it felt to me. So we luckily stopped for lunch. I ended up taking the boots and my socks off and getting those things as dried out as I could before we jumped on and finished the day. But needless to say, it was right after that I got some Gore-Tex boots, and now I like to make sure that I am using Gore-Tex or some equivalent kind of waterproof lining in all of my gear. So next up, somebody asked about roadside safety or roadside towing insurance for your motorcycle. And for me, I carry 2 different versions of it. I have the AMA insurance that I get with my AMA membership, and also I am now a BMW member since I have the BMW now, and I also went ahead and picked up the insurance through the BMW membership. So I did that because it not only comes with roadside assistance, but it also comes with a tire insurance policy. So I have 2 of those. So next up, we have some really good questions on camping and carrying supplies with you. And I could probably do a whole video on this topic. So we're just going to touch on the main concepts here. So first of all, I think how much you need to bring with you as far as food and cooking supplies and so forth, which is what the gentleman was asking about, really depends upon where you're going and what you're doing, kind of bike you have, etc. So if you watched our videos going up to Alaska, you know that myself, Stephen, and Peter didn't carry a lot of food with us. We carried food and supplies to make breakfast, a simple breakfast in the morning, which was typically coffee and oatmeal, something that we could mix with water and be done. We decided that we didn't want to carry a lot of cooking utensils and things like that because it just means that you got to carry more stuff and deal with it. So we said kept our breakfast simple, or we stopped along the way. We stopped along the way for lunches, and then in the evenings what we did was we would either go in and set up camp somewhere, and then we would ride out to a local store in the area, get some stuff, and come back in and make ourselves some dinner, right? Or we would pick it up along the way. That's why I always say make sure you have extra space in your luggage so that you can stop along the way and pick up supplies and things to go into camp. Now, of course, if you are going to be out in the wilderness for 3 or 4 days, then you're obviously going to have to bring things with you. However, remember, you're on a motorcycle and you're always going to need fuel for that motorcycle. So depending upon, again, how far you are going each day, you're always going to be returning back to at least some semblance of civilization where there's fuel. And typically, if there's fuel there, there's always something to eat, and there's always some kind of supplies that are available, again, around that fuel source as well. So traveling here in the United States and in Canada, again, you're just not ever going to be too far away from, places to buy food and other supplies. Even riding up through the Yukon, they, weren't right next to each other, but there was gas stations and then small little convenience or grocery stores in most locations as we traveled along, on our way up to Alaska. Now, this gentleman also did ask about some specific things, so I'll just touch on those things really quickly. And first of all is like eggs. If you want to have eggs in the morning, how did you handle that? And typically, I've carried in the past some dehydrated eggs, which sometimes those can be good, sometimes they're not. That's actually why we prefer the oatmeal, because it typically is just easier to make and tastes a lot better than dealing with dehydrated eggs. But if you wanted to get real eggs, they do make these hard plastic containers that you can put, at least I have one upstairs. It's in the attic, so I didn't go get it down. I'll see if I can find a picture of it out online for you. But it is a hard plastic case that you can put 6 eggs in. So like I'll be carrying that with me on this trip that I'm going to this year. So that is an option for you. Laundry detergent also he asked about. Typically what we do is get the individual packets, good for one wash, or there's something called a Tide Pod. So this is a Tide Pod. It's a little packet of detergent that you can just throw in the washing machine, and it's enough for one load. Or if you're doing it, inside of your waterproof bag, your stuff sack or something like that, well, then you can just punch a hole in this and drain the liquid out and use it that way. So, but they're really easy to carry. So next question he asked was on cooking spices. And so my suggestion is with the spices, you can do, I guess, one of two things. One is keep it really simple, that is bring salt and pepper, and then maybe some kind of allspice. This is something that we use here at home from Trader Joe's. There's all kinds of different versions of this, just depending upon what you like. The other thing is that you can pre-plan your meals ahead of time, knowing the spices that you want to use for those meals, measure them out, mix them up, and put them in separate Ziploc bags, and then carry those along with you. That way, again, you don't have to carry all these individual bottles. Again, everything is all mixed up for you. Next question was about cooking oil, and I would suggest doing one of two things. One, go out and get yourself a small squeeze bottle that you can carry along with you. You don't want to carry a big bottle of cooking oil or anything, so just carry what you think you're going to need. Or you can go out and get something like this. That is a spray oil, right? So that's not too bad to pack, right? And it lasts a good long time. And you can always replenish these on the way. So, and along with it, this guy asked about your cooking fuel. And what I have done in the past is I have usually carried 2 canisters of cooking fuel. And so far I have never run out. I guess it's always possible that I might. But if I do, well, then again, there's pretty much a Walmart in every town across this country or something like that where you can replenish your supply of these kinds of things. And one of the reasons that I would suggest that people build in rest days is for this kind of thing, right? Not only can you go to a hotel for the day, do your laundry, relax, sleep in a real bed, but you can also take the time to go to a Walmart and replenish any of your supplies. So the next question he asked was also, again, about food, but this was about the food storage. But I think that the answer to this goes along with deciding how much you really want to cook. on your trip, right? If you just are determined to do that, again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but if that's what you want to do, right, well then stopping and getting your food, a meal at a time along the way, I think is a good idea, right? But if you're going to carry several days with you, well then you've got to remember that if you're out camping in bear country, well, you're going to have to deal with that. So what we did on the Alaska trip is we carried bear vaults with us. So all of our food supply, which was mainly oatmeal, coffee, snacks, we put our deodorant, we put anything that was good smelling in these bear vaults, and then we stashed the bear vault away from camp. However, I will say that is not always easy to do, right? Because we were in campground type situations, and so if we put the bear vault 100 yards away from us, well, it was going to be next to somebody else, right? So again, depending upon the situation that you're in, again, that may or may not be practical. Some campgrounds, again, if they know that there's bears around, will have vaults that you can use in the campground to store stuff, so you can look at that. The other option might be to get a bear bag. I know I had a lot of people suggesting that to me when we went to Alaska, but again, we were not going out into the wilderness, right? We were going to be in campgrounds, and there's nowhere to hang that bear bag that isn't next to somebody else's trailer, so it kind of was not practical. So you just have to look at the situation that you're going to be in and see what is really going to work for you. Primarily, if you're going to be in established campgrounds and things, just keeping your camp clean, not having food and good smelling things out and available, that's going to be the biggest thing that you want to do. Again, the other thing is if you can take those things and move them away if possible from you. But again, for us, in our situations, we never really had a problem. But again, that's going to depend upon where you're going to camp. Another question was on gear security. Obviously, if you have lockable bags, that is great. But everybody doesn't have those. What do people do for gear security if you just have soft luggage, dry bags and so forth that are strapped to the back of your rack on your bike? And the answer to that, at least for me, is that at some point you have to trust people. And for me, making sure that you're parking your bike in locations that are relatively safe, that have a lot of people, traffic, going past them. It's not around the corner somewhere where somebody can hide and play around with your motorcycle. And also making sure that there aren't things on your bike that can easily be grabbed. Most crime is that of convenience, right? So if you have your GoPro cameras or your GPS just sitting up there and people can grab it and take it, well, they're probably going to do that. But if they have to spend a lot of time untying things and getting into your bags and going through them right there in front of everybody to see, well, then they're probably not going to do that, right? So if I'm going to a Walmart or something, I'm going to make sure that I am parking in an area where there's a lot of people coming in and out of the store. So if I can park up near the front of the lot, well, then my bike is going to be safer than if I stick it out there in the corner. Same thing with going into a restaurant. Try to park it where a lot of people are going by or where you can see the motorcycle. Now at night, what I have always found is just as with parking your motorcycle in good, safe locations when you're at a restaurant or at a store, well, it's the same with a hotel, right? If you pick hotels that are in seedy parts of town, that are dark, that have lower class people that are hanging around, then, well, you're likely to get your stuff ripped off, right, or have your bike messed with. But if you choose more upscale hotels that have good lighting around them, hotels that might even have security around them, well, again, then your bike is going to be safer, right? Unfortunately, that's just the way that it is. Now, another thing that you can do is take a cover with you, right? This is amazingly effective because, as I mentioned before, most crime is that of convenience, right? So if you have a cover on your bike and nobody can see your motorcycle, they can't see anything that's sitting on it, can't even see what the bike is, well, they're less likely to mess with it. Is it foolproof? No, of course not. But so far, it's worked extremely well for me. So next up, I got a couple of questions about motorcycles. The first was, why did I get rid of the Super Tenere? And while I have done a few videos on buying the BMW and why I bought the BMW, I'll reiterate that here. Basically, it got down to the fact that I had two motorcycles, that is the BMW and the Tenere, that basically were duplicating services. That is, they were serving as my road bikes. I bought the WR250 and it quickly became my preference for really riding off-road. The Super Tenere is great on dirt roads and things like that, but it's pretty heavy and my skill level isn't good enough to take it on the Northeast BDR, for example. But getting the smaller bike like a WR, well, that makes that ride doable for me and much more enjoyable. So I just sat down and decided that I didn't want to have two bikes that were duplicating, like I said, services. If I did not have Kathy riding with me, then I would have kept the Tenere, got rid of the Victory Vision, and the Tenere would have been my main bike for touring and traveling. But since I have to, take my wife with me, she wants to go with me, I want her to be with me, well, the bike that allows her to do that comfortably is the one we kept. So the next question leads right from there. As I said, if I didn't have Kathy, I just would have kept the Tenere and I would have used it as my main touring bike. The way that I had it set up, it was extremely comfortable, amazing, reliable bike. I really enjoyed it. And sometimes I kick myself in the butt for getting rid of it, but financially it was a good decision to do that. However, if there were other motorcycles that I would be interested in, to go out and do touring on, and I'm assuming that this gentleman who's asking this question is primarily talking about road touring. For me, I would probably go towards that adventure touring kind of motorcycle, the Yamaha Super Tenere, the BMW GSA, something like the Honda Africa Twin, and there's the Triumphs, KTMs. I mean, there's so many of them out there right now that are all great motorcycles. So I would be leaning something in that direction. However, I also really like the BMW R1200 RT, right? That is an amazing touring motorcycle, so some sport touring, I would like that. Or, as I've gotten older, I have come to appreciate smaller motorcycles, right? After riding the WR and riding a few other bikes on test rides, I am now appreciating the smaller, lighter weight motorcycle. And if I don't have a passenger back there, I just don't need that big, huge bike. So I would look at something like the Yamaha Tracer GT. That bike really appeals to me because, again, I know Yamaha. I know they make great, reliable motorcycles. But also, I've ridden the what was at that time an FZ07 and an FZ09, which this engine is made of, and I really loved those motorcycles. The FZ09 has just had a great engine in it, and the Tracer 9 does too. So those are the bikes that I would be looking at. Next question, and again another good question, is what websites or how do I go about finding lodging and camping for my trips? And essentially the way that I do it is while I'm creating my route in MRA Route Planner, I can use the Google Maps layer or the Google Maps satellite view, and I can go in and actually look at an area that I am interested in staying in, and I can look and see what hotels and motels and things are all around in that area. I can also go to Google and simply say, campgrounds near Dallas, Texas, or hotels in Dallas, Texas, or wherever it is that I'm going to be staying. And then, of course, I'm going to get this big, long list of hotels and campgrounds. And so then I can go in and look at each one of them and see what looks good to me, right? And that is primarily how I do it. I will say, though, I'm going to give you a warning here that if you go in and do that and Google, hotels or campgrounds near whatever city that you're looking for, I'm always careful not to click on any of those links that I am given as a result, right? Because many of them can be sites where you are going to have to pay some kind of a fee or something for booking through them. Had some friends that got caught up in that. I almost got caught up in it once myself. It looks like the URL there looks like it's going directly to the hotel site, but it's not. Like, reservations.hilton.com, probably not Hilton. Right, so you got to be really careful. So what I'll do is I might find a hotel or something that I am interested in, and then I will go Google again and go directly to that hotel's website, or to Best Western or Comfort Inn or something like that, and then I will search for the hotel through there, find it, and book it like that. Or I also have a Hotels.com membership that I've been using starting this year. I've never done that before, but I'm now using that as well, so I'll go directly to Hotels.com again, then search for the hotel that I want, just to make sure that I'm going through the actual website. And it's unfortunate, but that's some things you have to look out for and have to deal with in today's world. So for campgrounds, again, I'll do the same kind of a thing. I'll Google campgrounds, or I can go to the KOA website, for example. I like using KOAs. They're always pretty clean. I've never really run into a really horrible one. And also they usually have showers and, laundry facilities and things that you can use. And sometimes they'll have a store on site where you can pick up some supplies and things. So I don't mind using the KOAs. I like meeting the people there. I always meet cool people at them. So sometimes, again, I will go through them as well. If I want to go into a state or national park, well, I will typically go straight to that state or national park and look up the campgrounds and so forth that way. Recreation.gov, you can go and you can book, again, any of the campgrounds in the United States, the national park system. And the states either use that or they have other reservation systems. There's another one here in Massachusetts. I can't think of the name of it right now, but they use that. In fact, Reserve America. Thank you. There you go. Just came to me. See, the old brain, all the information is in there. It's just sometimes slow to come out. But again, so I'll go to them and then you can book your campsite through there. If you're looking for free campsites, I have used in the past freecampsites.net, where you can go and search a given area and then people have gone in and, put in the free campsites and things that they have found that way. So that works pretty well. So those are basically the things that I've been using to find lodging and campsites. So last question, and another one I could do a series of videos on. In fact, I am going to be doing a series of videos on these. We're doing a series on editing video and so forth, while you're out there taking your trips. And right now I'm posting it out for members of my Travelers Club. And then again, once it gets all finished, then it'll be out to the public. So if you want a preview, join the Travelers Club. And as I'm doing these videos, I'll be posting it out there for, again, your preview and for your review. But this question was, if you have a YouTube channel especially like a small YouTube channel, this gentleman said, where most of his work is done with his phone, with a GoPro. What kind of editing software do you suggest? And so I'm going to give you two different options here. The one that I use is Adobe Premiere Pro. It is one of the best pieces of video editing software out there. It has all kinds of features with it. It's fairly high learning curve because there's a lot to it, a lot that you can do, so you learn things over time. The other drawback to it is that it is fairly expensive. It's cost about $30 per month. Adobe sells their software now on a a subscription basis, like many of the software packages are sold. So buying just Adobe Premiere Pro is $30 a month. However, even though it is said rather expensive and takes quite a bit of practice and trial and error to figure out how to do it, if you're going to be serious about creating your videos and so forth, you're going to end up there sooner or later anyway, right? Because if you get the free packages and so forth, there are always things that you can't do with them. So while you can do basic editing and so forth, you probably won't get color correction, for example, or you won't have the ability to correct sound problems, right? So those are things that you're going to want, again, as you learn more and as you grow as an editor. So I just saw a post the other day where Amanda Zitto from As the Magpie Flies was answering this same question: what software do you suggest? And she just said, bite the bullet and go with Premiere Pro. And so I would agree with that. She said, if you are really planning on getting into doing videos and editing, that's the direction you're going to probably end up anyway. However, there is a less expensive option that will give you a lot of features, not quite as many as you can find in Premiere Pro. However, many of them are more automated and easier to use, and that is Power Director. Cybermedia is the company that creates Power Director, and so you can go out and take a look at that. But Power Director, I believe, their subscription, I believe, is around $10 a month, so it's markedly less expensive than Premiere Pro, but there are a lot of nice features, a lot of things that are done for you. Transitions and things like this you can get and you can apply to your video very easily. Also, Power Director has an app that will run on your phone and it'll let you edit videos directly on your telephone. And I forget what the fee for that is, $5 a month or something like that. So again, you have the ability to do editing both on your phone and on your PC. So, which is a nice feature with Power Director. In fact, all of my videos going up to Alaska and back home again, all of those daily videos that I did were all done on my phone with Power Director. So if you want to go back, well, never mind, I took all of those down a little while ago, so you can't see them again. But they're really easy to make, again, using Power Director. So I would suggest that you look at that. There are other free editors out there. You can Google them and find them. GoPro makes one, for example, that you can use. But again, they're just really basic programs, or they won't allow you to do color correction and all kinds of other things that you're going to eventually want. So, again, those are a couple of things that I would suggest to look at. And basically just dive into it and have fun. All right, guys, I think that's it. If you have any other questions, obviously you can put them down below, or if you have additional comments about some of the questions. I know that there'll be all kinds of people will have different opinions on camping that I do, and that's cool, right? We all have different ways of doing things. So please go ahead and let us know those as well. So I guess that's it for now, and we'll see you out there on the road. Looking forward to getting out there myself here pretty soon. All right, ride safe, guys.